Deputy Danny Healy-Rae.
Thank you very much. Minister, you will appreciate that we in Kerry have serious problems with students finding accommodation in places like Limerick and Cork. And I'm asking you here today, what are you doing, or what can you do, or what will you do in the future? But more so this year, what can be done for all these students that don't have a place in Limerick and Cork today?
Well, thanks, Deputy Healy-Rae, and thank you for raising the question. I think the first thing you would agree with me is that all roads shouldn't lead to Cork or Limerick out of Kerry when it comes to getting a university education. So the first thing I have done is made sure that Kerry is now a university county and that Tralee is now a university town. And it's an important point, Deputy, because your constituents in County Kerry can now access a university education in the Kingdom, in Kerry. Couldn't do it before, couldn't do it a couple of years ago. It can now happen. You now have your own university, MTU Tralee campus. And what I want to do is I want to build student accommodation in Tralee, and I want to help expand that Tralee campus. It's absolutely important to state that Munster Technological University has that campus in Tralee. It does provide a university option within Kerry for the very first time, and I do welcome the great work of MTU in expanding the courses, providing even more courses now in Kerry, including investment in a new STEM building, which I was down there turning the sod on recently, which is now under construction. But you are right, we do need to provide more student accommodation. Of that there's no doubt, and there'll always be students who have a right to and need to go outside their own county to access the university. Support of €1 million is being provided to our technological universities to undertake a needs assessment for the provision of student accommodation. My department is also examining mechanisms to make sure the technological universities can borrow to build student accommodation, and I believe this will help MTU in Cork and Kerry build student accommodation. In general, though, I want to assure you, as I've said in this House today, we are now investing taxpayers' money in building student accommodation. So you referenced Limerick as an example. In November, I got approval from government for €61 million to press go on 1,100 student accommodation units that had planning permission but hadn't been built without needed taxpayers' money to make them viable. That includes accommodation in Limerick as well. My department is working very closely with Limerick and with University College Cork to assess and identify potential projects in Cork and Limerick. And the other thing I would say to your constituents is, as they go back to college this year, accepting the challenges that there are 938 more college-owned student accommodation beds this year than last year, including 255 of them in Cork, which you referenced in UCC. And there are over 2,000 privately funded beds that are due to be completed and available this autumn as well.
Of course, Minister, I do welcome what has happened in Tralee, but what I'm talking about here today is students that are actually don't have accommodation in Cork and Limerick today, and for whatever reason, their courses are in those colleges at this time, and they're travelling by bus, and they can't drive themselves because they can't get a driving test in Kerry. It's an impossibility. The results of the leaving come out too late. The CAO offers are too late. The second round of CAO offers are much too late. And the lottery system only satisfies some. And we have college students from as far away as Carsavine. It's an awful journey from Carsavine to Limerick and to Cork. And these people, college days are supposed to be the best days of their lives. And what I hear now is what they're telling me, that they're sleeping in couches, they're sleeping on floors, and they're sleeping in tents, and even joining together and renting hotel rooms that have increased their rent by 50% after the first 2 weeks.
Thank you, Deputy.
This is not good enough, Minister.
Thanks, Deputy Healy-Rae. First thing I'd ask you to do is maybe provide me with the details of your constituent who's sleeping in a tent in college, because I'd be very interested in pursuing that with the university, because there should be no reason why we can't provide accommodation, including the rent-a-room scheme. There were 2,500 beds available to rent right across the country, available for students to rent. I'm not suggesting it's perfect. I'm certainly not suggesting it's easy, but certainly people can do much better, and we can do much better by students than the scenario that you outlined there. I take the point you make, and it's a valid point about how the late Leaving Cert results and then the late CAO results in recent years have added to the sense of pressure. You'll also, though, acknowledge that this year we saw the Leaving Cert results back in August again, thank God, and we saw the CAO results earlier than previous years. I'll take up the issue that you make in relation to the driving licence and the availability, and I'm sure that's placing huge pressure on people, and I'll talk to the Minister for Transport in relation to that. You referenced the issue of many people travelling by bus. You will know that in the last budget we did carry out a 50% price reduction on the young adult leap card and extended that to make sure that people in third level education could benefit. That's something I'd like to see maintained in the budget and built on as well. But this is all about building more student accommodation. I'm fully committed to doing that.
Deputy.
So that's stretched out, and first year students are they find it the toughest because second and third years may have accommodation, got before the holidays or whatever. But these are in a scramble and find it very, very tough. And especially students from Kilcummin and Killarney, they're trying to rent a hotel room. Their parents are trying to help them. And like I said to you, they find it really difficult, and the rent prices are being put up by the hotels. It's not fair. But we have to do something for these people, because travelling, while some of them are trying to travel, even on the green bus from Killarney to Limerick, I mean, the time they're given the bus travelling, it's an hour and 3/4 up and an hour and 3/4 down. Lecturers will tell you that there's not all the students are attending because they're just wore out and they're not able to make the times. So we have to do something, Cathaoirleach and Minister, to help these students, because it is a reality. It's happening today. Talking about Tralee, that's next year and down the line, but these students have courses in Limerick and Cork at the present time, and they're finding it very, very difficult. And I'm asking you, Minister, to do something or assess accommodation for these people that have applied for on-campus accommodation and can't get it.
Thank you, Deputy.
No, and I certainly will, and am doing things for those students, but Tralee is not something about tomorrow or the future. It's there today, and more students from Kerry and across the country have applied to go to university in Kerry this year than last year. That's just the point I'm making. I certainly don't need to advocate for you, about Kerry, but I mean, that is the point you make is so right. The idea of being able to bring university education closer to people, reduce their commute times, access their community, is something I know we agree on, and I want to see more done in Kerry to provide education opportunities in that county for people so they don't have to travel further. In relation to those who are travelling, there'll always be people who need to travel, and there'll always be people who wish to go to universities, and that is absolutely their right across the country. In Cork, you referenced Cork, what have we done? Well, there's 255 more student college beds in UCC this September than last September. That's a real addition. It may not be enough, but it is 255 more. What I will promise you we will do is, in the budget, we will try to take more measures to accelerate the building of student accommodation, but also to reduce the cost for people having to travel to college. The rent-a-room tax relief is something that will help people in Kerry right now, because it reduces the amounts that you'll actually have to pay in rent over the course of the college year, and I think we should build on that too.